So in the last session regarding evolution, we had an introduction where we studied different aspects of evolution, its processes that are causing evolution, and how evolution works out in a large scale. Now, to understand evolution deeply, we need to understand different components or the forces which makes evolution possible. So evolution is basically based on this idea that all there are multiple variations that happens in an organism, and those organisms pass on these variation to the next generation with the mode of heredity. So we know that these variations and these inheritance of these characters go on a progressive scale, and all the characters which are beneficial retain themselves and provide an evolutionary makeshift. So we'll start understanding each parts of it. That is, we'll begin with inheritance, and then we'll study the variation of these inheritance, how these inheritance come on. So we have this basic information. We know that DNA is the storehouse of genetic information. So every living organism is composed of different nucleic acids, DNA being one prominent of it, and it is the storehouse of genetic information. Now there are many locations or the portions of DNA which code for specific structural proteins. These locations are also called as locus or loci in plural, and there are multiple versions of these genes on the same locus. So these are called alleles. The multiple versions of genes are called alleles. Now genes and DNA, they follow a central dogma. Central dogma where there is process of replication, translation, transcription that enables and produces proteins to function out in a certain scenario, which results in the phenotypic structure of the organisms. So these genes actually produce protein which together in combination works around structural coherence and produces phenotypes. Okay, so there is genotype, that is arrangement of gene and loci and locus and alleles, and then there is the structural phenotype that comes out as characters. Now selection actually works on the phenotypic structures, but usually we need to understand the genotypic structure behind it as well, so that we can correlate between it. Now there are multiple alleles of a same gene, and those multiple alleles function differently, as in the phenotype comes out differently. And if there are multiple as in so many options of so many versions of one gene, then that is called polymorphic gene. That is more prominent in different organisms, like if you see so like dogs, the coat color in case of dogs have multiple variations of the same allele. So there are multiple variation of alleles. Apart from that, one important aspect of this inheritance is single nucleotide polymorphisms. Now, single nucleotide polymorphisms are variations of base pair among individuals, and these are variations in single nucleotides. Okay, so a change in one nucleotide in the pattern. So it is pretty common. It is pretty common in the sense it is 1 in every 1000 base pairs. Now the thing is, these are the key to variation among different individuals as well, of the same species, of different individuals. Like for me and you, the difference will be more in number of single nucleotide polymorphisms or SNPs that we call as. But the difference of SNPs between me and my father will be very less. So that shows that more the genetic relatedness, less the number of SNPs. So you can actually assess that and understand fingerprinting. We'll study that as well in further classes, but this is just an idea about SNPs and how they are the structural differences among individuals and differences in genes. So the changes or the differences or the variation comes from a minute level of a single base pair, ranging up to different alleles and different genes as well. Now, coming to the unit of variation, that is mutation. Mutation is an irreversible and sudden change that happens, causing the changes in either exchange of one single nucleotide or multiple regions of nucleotides, okay, or entire structural change might happen as well. So the variation that is caused due to mutation is might be based on the source. That is, if it is in point mutation refers to single DNA base pair change. That might be synonymous. Synonymous refers to the change where in a single codon which has 3 base pairs, If one changes and that still produces the same protein, then that is synonymous. So the codon might change, but it still produces the same protein, and that is synonymous change. And this is non-deleterious. I mean, no change happened actually. Non-synonymous changes are those kind of changes where a change in one single base pair changes the entire structure of protein. So the protein is now new because there is change of one single base pair. So these are sometimes deleterious, sometimes beneficial. Okay, and nonsense mutations are usually that kind of mutation where one change in the point base pair will result in production of stop codon. Stop codon results in stopping of the translation of the protein, right? So it stops the entire process of protein, and the protein is somewhat unfinished. So yeah, so these kind of mutations might happen by change in single base pairs, or there might be also changes or variations among sections of chromosomes or sections of genes, and that is structural mutation where a segment or entire chromosome goes off. So there might be, insertion of segments, deletion of segment, duplication of a segment, inversion, fusion, fission. So you have studied all this, but just to give an idea that these are the genotypic structural changes that actually results in change in organismal phenotypes. And those phenotypes, whichever seems beneficial, whichever is suitable for the environment or seems fit, are selected. Okay, and they might be also based on the location. If it is in germline, then that is inherited over multiple time, because all the characters that changes in a germ cells, or usually with respect to gametes, are transferred. Some mutations might be also somatic and are restricted to that generation only. So yeah, there might be also changes with respect to or variation with respect to mutation on the location. So these are different changes. So what are the effects of mutation on phenotypic traits? There might be pleiotropy. Pleiotropy refers to the fact that changes in one singular production of a, let's say, hormone or a growth factor will result in change in the entire body system. So one particular trait or one particular gene is responsible for multiple structural changes. Like the photo that you are seeing is of Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage plays the role of Lannister, Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones, right? And he has played some many different roles. He is a very good actor, but the thing is, he's suffering from a disease called as achondroplasia. Now that is caused because of the mutation in case of growth factor FGF3. Okay, and FGF3, human growth factor 3, is so the variation that causes the mutation of that particular growth factor results in malfunctioning and the production of bone cells as well as the muscles. So one particular hormone, the change in one particular hormone resulted in differences in multiple traits, multiple characters. So that is pleiotropy. So one gene resulting in changes in multiple traits. Okay, so that is very common as well. So one mutational change in one particular structure happens, change in entire body systems. But you understand fitness. So fitness, the factor, is a character and attribute of change or variation. So if mutation causes variation and variation is the result of selection of basically fitness, so you need to understand that mutation are somehow direct causes of fitnesses. So yeah, if I can make an in short directly say that if a variation is caused by mutation, so if mutation causes variation and selection of particular variation is fitness, okay, so you can directly understand that variation is an attribute of fitness and mutation directly regulates different structures of fitnesses. So yeah, we'll understand that again, but still, homeotic mutations are a sort of mutations that actually replace entire structure or body part from where then that might have been. So in this case, you can see that these stems of arms. So these are arms that are being growing in place of antenna. Now these regions, which is regulated by a gene called antennapidae. So there is a mutation in that particular gene which causes the formation of limbs in place of antennas. So these are mutations which transform the entire body part into one another. So yeah, there are multiple examples of mutations, as you know, but still these are few examples which causes direct effect on the phenotypic traits. So yeah, coming up to mutation rate, the mutation rate varies across different species, different individuals, different sizes as well. So there are different factors which relates to how mutation and what will be the rate of mutation that will result in variation. So variation in mutation rate is different as respect to prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes. So prokaryote have a higher rate of mutation, that one mutation might happen within 1,000 or 1 million individuals or base pairs. So that results in a greater resistance, let's say, that results in greater responses to conditions, adaptive conditions. So they adapt quickly to antiviral responses or antibacterial responses because the mutation that happens inside the body is quick. The mutation rate is higher. Where in case of eukaryotes, the mutation rate is lower, way lower. So mutations in eukaryotes happens as well, but the rate is lower. So there is very rare chances of mutation happening. Apart from that, the variation also results in differential genetic processes. Now that is recombination and linkage. So recombination refers to the fact that exchange of genetic structures and genetic characters that happens while meiosis. So that happens, recombination of chromosomal structure, crossing over that happens, and there is linkage disequilibrium. Linkage disequilibrium talks about the case where linkage refers to a fact that in case of, let's say, a particular chromosome that we have, so one gene is present here, and that is gene 1, and the other gene is present here, so it is gene 2. Now the thing is, when they are crossed over into next generation, if they are pretty close to each other, then both of the character will be linked, and both of the character will go on. So one character will be linked with the other, and the both will be character will be presented in the phenotype. So this is how linkage works out. Now the thing is, usually recombination works towards a linkage equilibrium. That means all the linkage character, the character that are linked, will come out equally in all the structural population. But linkage disequilibrium talks about a state where it results in disequilibrium. I mean, one character leads to rise and one character leads to lower down, which is basically selection. You are understanding the fact that disequilibrium in all the characters multiplied variation in all the character will result in variation. So linkage disequilibrium, that means both the characters that were present 1 and 2, if we are talking about gene in 1 and 2, which resulted in two different characters, if they are linked, so they will have equal rate of production among all individuals. But if there is linkage disequilibrium, that will result in more number of availability of one particular character, whereas the other character will lower down, basis of natural selection, that is. And then there is epistasis. Epistasis also talks about specific selection of one particular character or lowering down of the other character. So epistatic characters usually mask over the other mutations. So mutation in one particular character will result in masking over the other characters as well. So if there are two characters that are linked, let's say if I'm talking about baldness and hair color, so one character was baldness and the other character is hair color that we are talking about. Let's say one had red hair colored, one had white hair colored. Okay. So if baldness is an epistatic character, then that will take over those two alleles. That means even if one had red hair, irrespective what hair it had, if the baldness character is epistatic, then after some time it will come up and it will remove both of the things. Like, so if one male is going to be get bald, that doesn't matter what kind of hair color it has. So the mutation of baldness supersedes the mutation of red or white color. So that is epistasis. Now, so understanding the theory of molecular evolution, we have understood till now that there are multiple variations, and multiple variations there are possibly selective variations, that structures. Beneficial mutations are taken up and utilized and presented over selection. But the neutral theory of molecular evolution given by Moto Kimura states that deleterious mutations are most common. They are more common in organisms, and beneficial mutations are rare. So the chances of getting a beneficial mutations is pretty rare as well. It's pretty rare. Then when mutation happens, it will result in a good character. Usually mutation happens resulted in bad character. So the thing is, what he said is, the evolution might happens by selection of neutral characters rather than good or bad. The character which do not possess any kind of beneficial activities, these are also called as neutral alleles. Okay. So evolution might function on the fixation of these characters. I mean, it's, let's say there are 100 individuals, and among 100 individuals, 20 of them got deleterious mutations which are non-beneficial, and only 2 of them got beneficial mutations, let's say, which provided better fitness for these structures, for these environmental scenarios. But the thing is, the remaining 78 individuals, what are they? So they have neutral individuals, right? So they have neutral alleles which are not beneficial, which are neither deleterious. So what will happen is, the portion which get fixated over time will be taken over by the amount of rare beneficial nutrition, and that will become the basis of molecular evolution or the evolution. So that's what Moto Komura said, that neutral evolution and the fixation, which are neither beneficial not deleterious, will be selected over evolution and will be fixated over time. You won't see a better character producing just right now. It will be fixated over time when there are more presence of neutral characters, right? So yeah, that was the idea of Moto Kimura. Apart from genetic inheritance that we talked about, different genes, mutations, there are also characters of non-genetic inheritance, that is epigenetic inheritance, where we talk about direct effect of environmental characters over the gene and structure. So these also are factors for inheritance. Now there is mitochondrial inheritance, which is also called as maternal inheritance. So few characters which are established in maternal genes or the mitochondrial genes are directly passed on to the daughters. Now there are also effects of cultural inheritance. So these are also factors. These are also important factors. So few of the characters, like indicating a preferring a particular mate, that is decided by a cultural significance. So in case of humans, it has a very broad aspect. No. So one culture, let's say in group of different cultures, there are multiple individuals. One group is prefer black color because their culture prefers black color. Okay, so one individual is not actually preferring one particular factor, but the entire cultural idea has resulted in production of or selection of that particular character. So in the end, they select that particular individual, and the offsprings will again be getting that character as well. So that is how cultural inheritance works out. So if you have seen, if I understand, we'll also study that in detail, but there are multiple aspects where imprinting of a specific character, let's say coloration of beak. So there are, in case of gross beaks, or in case of zebra finches, one experiment was carried out where the color of the beak was marked with different colors. One was orange, one was red, and the offspring that had the mothers of red beaks, even after their adults, preferred the selection of red beaks because that character was imprinted. And further on, the similar kind of activities went on. All the generation that came out after them preferred red beaks over orange beaks. So yeah, there is cultural significance, the inheritance that happens over certain character, not because it is beneficial or deleterious, but because it was selected or it was preferred culturally. So yeah, these characters also get imprinted over time.